Sports fans, and welcome to this Scott Sports NFL Sunday late games, post game show. I'm sorry I'm a little late, so we'll move this along. And one thing, before we get to the late game scores, and we'll recap the early games as well, I forgot on my first podcast to announce the answer to today's Scott Sports 101 NFL Football Sunday trivia question. So I will do that right now. I will reveal the answer to that since I didn't reveal it in the early late game, post game, and pregame show. Who did Kansas City Chiefs Derek Thomas sack 7 times during a single game in 1990? If you said Dave Krieg, you are correct. Thomas set a single game record in sacking Seattle's Dave Krieg on Veterans Day 1990. And I have another trivia question, which will be a Browns one tomorrow night on Scott Sports 101 Monday Night Football pregame show. So stay tuned for that. Well, we're going to recap the late games for you right now. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Oakland Raiders today in Oakland, 28-10, and Patrick Mahomes surpassed with 300 plus yards, and I think he surpassed I can't remember who he surpassed, but I know he surpassed someone, but I just can't remember off the top of my head, but I will figure it out, do not worry. But I know he surpassed a legendary player with 300 plus yards, and he had 30 of 33 carries and attempts and 269 yards. So that was a great game for him today. And the Raiders, they just couldn't get it together today. They just come up on the short end of the stick, and they go to 0-2, and KC goes to 2-0. The LA Rams beat the New Orleans Saints at LA Memorial Coliseum 27-9. And Drew Brees went out with an injury in the first quarter, and we don't know any updates on him yet, but we don't know how long he's going to be out for. But that affected the Saints game today, and that's why the Saints just really came up on the short end of the sticks. And the Bears and Broncos, both teams were 0-2, but the Bears avoided an 0-2 start, and they beat the Denver Broncos 16-14. And this was a close game, and the Bears were up 13-10, and then in the fourth, and then the Broncos came back, scored a touchdown, and it was actually 13-7, and the Broncos scored a touchdown. The kick was good, the extra point was good, and it was 14-13, and then the Bears kicked the field goal in the final seconds, and they won the game. So it was the Bears that really had it today, and Mitch Trubisky, 29 of 34 yards and 263 yards. And now we'll go back and we'll recap the early games for you. The Arizona Cardinals, an embarrassing loss for them against the Baltimore Ravens, 23-17. They just could not get it together, and I got to give the game ball to Lamar Jackson. That's who I give the game ball to. And for the late games, I give it to the Rams quarterback, and for the Chiefs, I give it to Patrick Mahomes, and for the Bears, I give it to Mitch Trubisky. I give the game ball to him, and the Cardinals just could not get it together. They just could not get the victory. They couldn't make that play in the final 2 minutes, and they just couldn't get it done. So Ravens get the victory, and I give the game ball to Lamar Jackson, as I just said. The Lions were in this one, and the Chargers had several opportunities and missed, and then the Lions came back and they scored a touchdown, and they had missed several opportunities, but they come away with the win, 13-10, and I give it to Kerry Johnson and Detroit's quarterback. I give it to the quarterback of Detroit, which is which Kerry Johnson, he gets the game ball. The Green Bay Packers beat the Minnesota Vikings 21-16 at legendary Lambeau Field in Green Bay, and Minnesota had several opportunities to try to win this. They just couldn't do it, and they just and there were some holding calls, and there was one, and they viewed one call, and when tried to jump over and try to score, and it was called a holding penalty, so that's what cost it Minnesota. And I got to give the game ball to Aaron Jackson. 31 of 34 carries and attempts, and 269 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Indianapolis Colts beat the Tennessee Titans, and Tennessee 19-17 at LP Field, and this is a great game for the Colts. Tennessee had chances and they just could not capitalize on it, but the Colts just came back and they won it, and so I have to give the game ball to Jacoby Brissett. I got to give it to him. I got to give the quarterback to the Colts quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. I got to give it to him. Check me if I'm wrong on that. I can't remember who Indianapolis quarterback, but check me if I'm wrong on that. The San Francisco 49ers just walloped the Cincinnati Bengals at Paul Brown Stadium today, 41-17. Jimmy Garoppolo, 30 of 34 carries and attempts, and 269 yards. And I got to give the game ball to Jimmy Garoppolo. And the Bengals, they just struggled today on offense, and they just could not get together and come away with the victory. The Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Houston Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars by 1 in a nail-biter, 13-12 at NRG Stadium in New York, and in Houston, excuse me. And Deshaun Watson, boy, I got to give it to him. 23 of 19 carries and attempts, and 300 yards and 253 yards and 1 touchdown. Yeah, there was a 1 touchdown only, so I got to give it to him. The Dallas Cowboys took care of the Washington Redskins 31-21, and Cowboys go to 2-0, and the Redskins just could not avoid an 0-2 start. They go to 0-2, and I have to give the game balls to Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Dak Prescott had 111 yards, .8, and he had and that was he surpassed and that was a record for most yards passing, and it was a first-time record in a single game, and so he had 29 of 33 carries and attempts, and 311 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I got to give it to Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott for his 1 touchdown. So, and Redskins Adrian Peterson surpassed the great Jim Brown for most passing yards, and 4th in most passing yards. He's now at 107. Jim Brown was at 106, and Adrian surpassed him. So I got to give credit to that. And at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh today, the Seahawks beat the Steelers 28-26. Ben Roethlisberger went out with a elbow injury, and James Conner went out with a knee injury. So I have updates on those. But this was not a good day for the Steelers, and they had led, but then the Seahawks just came back, and they just led throughout this game, but they led through a good portion of it, but not throughout it. And I want to say happy 60th birthday to Pete Carroll. His team played a great game today. And I got to give the game ball to Russell Wilson. He gets the game ball today. 24 of 23 carries and attempts, and 269 yards he had today. Actually, 264 yards, excuse me. The Buffalo Bills beat the New York Giants 28-14 at MetLife Stadium in New York. And Buffalo just had a great game today, but the Giants, they just couldn't get it together today. They just could not, and they had led, but they had led at one point, but then the Buffalo came back and scored, and they just held on to win it. And so I got to give it to I can't remember Buffalo's quarterback's name, but I have to give it to the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. The New England Patriots shut out and just slaughtered and manhandled the Miami Dolphins 43-0 at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And the Dolphins just not a good day for them. Sloppy tackling and just not making a play. And this was not a good game for them today because they just got manhandled. And I got to give the game ball to Tom Brady. 24 of 30 carries and attempts, and 258 yards and 7 touchdowns. He had a lot of touch. And I got to give one to Antonio Brown. He scored 1 touchdown, and Sion Baker, and he scored 1 touchdown. So they get the game balls for that one. And so the Eagles and Falcons, they are leading 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. I think they might be up in the second quarter, the Falcons, so we'll see what happens in that one. And don't forget tomorrow, Monday Night Football with the Browns and the Jets at MetLife Stadium in New York. And I think the Browns are going to come away with this one. Browns defensive back, Javarius Randall, is out with a concussion injury, so he will not be playing in tomorrow night's game against the Jets. So I want to let you know that. And we'll talk more about that tonight after this game with the Falcons and Eagles is concluded. And so that's just about going to wrap it up for the Scout Sports 101 late games, post-game show, and Sunday Night Football pregame show, which I feel the Eagles have the edge in that one. And before I go, in case you missed it yesterday, the Ohio State Buckeyes manhandled the Indiana Hoosiers 51-10 in Indiana yesterday. So they go to 3-0. And so I'll be back with a Sunday night post-game show once the Eagles-Falcons game is concluded. But until then, always remember, be a team player each and every day and every way possible. So long, everybody. 3, 2, 1, I'm done.